Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. I'm one of your registered dietitians. We are here today in this video to talk about ingredient swaps. I know it's tough when you're at the grocery store and you're looking for a specific ingredient, and in the last 6 weeks or so, there's just been some items that are just not on the shelves, or when I go, they're not on the shelf, but there are some recipes that my family loves or I want to make, and there's just one ingredient that might be missing. So today we're going to talk about some common ingredients in your pantry and your fridge that you can mix and match together to still get the same outcome as what was intended in the original ingredients and the recipes that you might have that you're finding online or in a cookbook in your house. Or just, your tried and true loved recipes. So we're going to talk about some ingredient swaps today, and then we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to focus on protein and protein swaps specifically. And the reason I really want to talk about that is because there is a possible impending meat shortage, and I know a lot of people are feeling anxious about that. There's a little bit of anxiety with my boys specifically because they are meat eaters, and we go through like 2 pounds of meat at a meal. So you want to be mindful of what can you mix and match, what can you switch out in our meals that are either plant-based or vegetarian proteins to still make sure that you're getting the protein needs for yourself and for your family through the different meals and combinations that you'll make. So we'll talk about not only ingredient swaps, but we'll also talk about protein swaps today as well. So first, let's talk about the ingredient swaps. So what I wanted to really focus on is some of these easy switch outs for ingredients and for recipes that you might have on hand. And I think that this doesn't only go for right now when you can't get a specific ingredient, but in general. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to start making something and then I go in my cupboard and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't know anybody used the last bit of X, Y, or Z. And then I think I can't make that recipe any longer. And sometimes that is the case, but there are a lot of things that we can substitute or swap out, and that way we still can make the recipe we want to make. So you notice I have the citrus fruits down here. All of these are interchangeable with each other. You could even do lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruits. They all really work well interchanging for each other. There's many times that I've used grapefruit juice when orange juice is called, or orange zest when lemon zest is called for. It's only if it's the main ingredient would I be a little bit hesitant, but typically they all work well interchangeably. The other day I couldn't get limes at the grocery store for salsa, so I just got this little squeezable lime juice container. They have limes and lemon juice containers in the produce department, and that way it's just in the fridge, but that way I'm still able to make my salsa with that specific tang that limes have. So having those kinds of things on hand is helpful. White wine, if it's what you can easily switch out white wine for chicken stock or veggie stock. If you don't have any unsalted stocks in the house, you could certainly make it with a cup of water and a tablespoon of soy sauce. That kind of gives that same umami flavor that the broth will give or the unsalted stock will give. And then you can add some dried herbs into it and spices to kind of give it whatever flavor profile that you're looking for. Oil, vegetable oil has been kind of scarce at the grocery store. I think because a lot of people are baking and making some of those homey comfort foods. They're frying a little bit more at home. So vegetable oil has been a little hard to get. I've been baking a little bit more than I normally do too, per request of my family. So when I couldn't get oil a couple weeks ago, I was using applesauce, unsweetened applesauce in place of the oil. The next thing I want to talk about is sweetener. When honey is called for in a recipe, you can easily use agave nectar or you can use maple syrup, preferably 100% maple syrup. The pancake syrup is not the same swap out. There's high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, and lots of extra sugar in there. So you want to make sure that if you're swapping out for honey, it's actual 100% maple syrup. Brown sugar is another thing that I think a lot of people don't have on hand all of the time. I'm not a baker. I'm more of a cook. I don't like to measure. I kind of mix and match everything. And so I don't often have baking ingredients all the time in my pantry. So when I started making cakes during this quarantine, because it was requested by my family, I didn't have brown sugar. So I just used my plain white sugar and I added in a little bit of molasses, which I had from a previous recipe. And voila, you had that kind of similar flavor profile and it worked great in the cake recipe that I was making. So easily switch outs like this. In the handout that goes along with this video, all of the measurements and all of the swaps are listed out for you, so you can kind of use that as an at-home reference. Barbecue sauce, if you're run out of it and you're making something, you can easily combine ketchup and mustard together to kind of give it that same tangy flavor that barbecue sauce has, and you can add spices and herbs to it to kind of give it the same flavor that you like. Specifically right now, you might not find the brands that you like, so you might want to make it on your own. Over here I've got yogurt and mayonnaise. If a recipe calls for mayonnaise and sour cream and you're just out of it, you can certainly use non-fat Greek yogurt. The other day when we were making quesadillas, I opted to not even buy sour cream just for the mere fact that we don't go through it quickly, so I end up tossing it and I didn't want to waste it. So we always have non-fat Greek yogurt on hand, so that's what we used instead, and you really can't tell. Plus, bonus, non-fat Greek yogurt adds a lot of protein and less calories than, like, say, the sour cream or mayonnaise would in a recipe. So any kind of dips or dressings that you're making, easily you can swap those out for each other. I've got over here breadcrumbs. If you're out of breadcrumbs or you just didn't buy them, you can certainly crunch up some whole grain crackers or some bran cereal. Even if you got some stale bread left over, you can kind of grate that down and use that as breadcrumbs as well. Dried herbs, anytime a recipe calls for fresh herbs, you can certainly use dry herbs. You'll just use it's roughly about a half portion just because it's a little more flavorful in the dried component. The flavor's more intensified, so you won't need as much as when the fresh herbs are called for. And then things like garlic powder, if you're out of fresh garlic or you thought you had a clove in your drawer and then you go through it and you just can't find it, you can swap out 1 garlic clove for 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and you'll still kind of get that garlic flavor in the food that you're looking for. So these are just some easy ingredient swaps that you can do at home so that you can still make those recipes that you're finding that you want to make, but you just don't have that one ingredient. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of direction. So let's switch gears now and focus on protein swaps. So this is definitely a hot topic right now and something that a lot of people are feeling anxious about. So I want to make sure that you have some information so that you know that you're providing yourself and your family with enough protein to meet your needs and your body's requirements. So if you're used to eating chicken and beef and pork regularly and you just can't get enough of it for all of your meals for the week in your grocery shopping, certainly we can rely on fish and shellfish. That's an easy swap. It's got similar protein per ounces of the protein options. So for about 3 ounces, you're getting about 21 grams of protein. So easily swapped there. I have these out because the shrimp always goes on sale and it's easy to keep in the freezer and it thaws out quick for a quick, easy meal. Whether you're doing stir fry, you just steam it to have a cocktail sauce. If you're throwing it into like a risotto or a pasta dish, shrimp is just easy and versatile. Then I have the mahi loins here, the bag. We finished them last night, but I just wanted to show you the bag. I stock up on these individually vacuum sealed fish, just because that way I know that they're in there and I have them when I need. Our family eats fish pretty regularly. I'd say probably about 3 to 4 times a week. It's recommended that you eat fish 2 to 3 times a week if you're a fish eater. It really helps to get in some of those healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Plus, they tend to be really lean protein options, which are good calorie-wise and fat-wise. But mahi that we did, they were individually vacuum sealed. You can get salmon this way, tilapia, any of those options. If you're not a fish cook, if you feel nervous about cooking fish, if it's just not something that you're used to cooking, I hear that a lot from a lot of people. Start out with like firm white fish like mahi. Or salmon. Salmon is very forgiving because it's got natural fat in it, so it doesn't really dry out very quickly, and it's a little bit more forgiving flavor-wise for what herbs and spices you might add in. There's lots of different marinades and flavor profiles you can use for salmon and fish in general, but those would be the 2 that I would kind of start out with, and tilapia for the home cook who's not used to cooking fish. And then baking it, broiling it, and pan-searing it are super easy. So those would be what I would probably start with. But kind of stocking up on these things and focusing on maybe having it a little bit more often in your week if you can't get the chicken and the beef and the pork that you might be used to. Shrimp and shellfish, I just want to kind of hit on with cholesterol. Just be mindful that the issue with shellfish is not that it's so high in cholesterol that you shouldn't eat it. I know that's kind of been told to people who have high cholesterol over the years. It's not really that big of an issue because there's not fat that comes along with the shellfish cholesterol. So as long as you're not eating it with drawn butter and in an Alfredo sauce or deep fried, you're okay to have it, more than once a week. You could have it twice a week, even 3 sometimes. But just being mindful of variety in this situation, when you can buy a couple of different kinds of fish and seafood, try to do it. Now we want to kind of focus on other proteins like eggs. Eggs are a great, quick and easy meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's also a great protein and meal option to have your kids start to learn cooking skills with. It's easy to scramble an egg, hard-boil an egg, poach an egg, frittatas, right, quiches, anything like that. You can kind of start them learning how to cook with eggs. It's easy to do. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're eating eggs more often, you do want to be mindful of how many yolks that you're eating, just because of the amount of saturated fat and cholesterol that's in the yolks. You want to kind of keep it to no more than 1 to 2 yolks in a day. For kids, it's not as much of a concern. So I wouldn't limit the yolks for kids, but for adults, you do want to be mindful specifically if you have any heart health issues. So fish, seafood, and eggs, definitely keep them on hand. Kind of moving more into the plant-based protein options, things like edamame. I have dried edamame, they're crunchy. I buy them myself. You can certainly dry them your own self and roast them. But these are great to add on to a salad, have as a snack, mix into a trail mix, and they have a great amount of protein in them, 14 grams for 1/3 of a cup, which is great. So having stuff like this on hand as a quick snack just bumps your protein up a little bit. Frozen edamame that's shelled and cooked already, all you have to do is thaw them out. The other day I did a quick slaw recipe where I used the edamame as the protein. You could use these shelled edamame and throw them into pasta dishes, rice dishes, stir fries, salads. You could just have them as a snack. They really are versatile as you would use any kind of chicken. So you can utilize that in recipes as well. Other proteins like soy-based, I don't have on hand just because I haven't bought them yet, but next time I go to the store, I'll probably start to stock up on some firm tofu. Extra firm tofu, you can pan sear, bake, and really utilize similarly to meats as well, meat and fish. So I'll stock up on some tofu the next time I go. If you're at the store, you could certainly buy also seitan, tempeh, things of that nature that you can also really exchange evenly out for in meals as a protein. So other items that we can use for plant-based protein swaps would be our beans and legumes. So certainly utilizing those in our meals. Be mindful of quantity because the calories can scoot up. So no more than 1/2 of a cup of beans at a meal. And then things that are bean-based products I really love. So things like our spaghettis that are made out of black beans. I've got lasagna noodles here that are made out of lentils. Lentils here are great. So this bean pasta, for example, has 25 grams of protein per serving, which is comparable to about 3 to 4 ounces of meat or fish. So you don't even have to add a different protein to this meal. It could just be the pasta itself. And it comes in lots of different varieties. Chickpea pasta, black bean pasta, mung bean I've seen, lentil pasta I've got here for the lasagna noodles. So those work really great. Definitely stock up on those. If you've got picky eaters, they won't even realize what they're eating. You can also mix this into, like, do half and half. So if you've got, you can buy the, these are black beans, so they're black, so you can't really mix them in without knowing. But you could use like the mung bean or the chickpea pasta, and you can do like half regular pasta and half chickpea pasta, and then it's kind of mixed into and the textures blend, and the kids won't really notice that they're eating something different. So that's a great way to increase your protein at your meals. Things like seeds and nuts are great to make sure that you're including. Keep in mind again that calories do add up, so it's not a free-for-all. Your calories will scoot up and you can start to gain some weight because they are high in fat, healthy fat, but high in fat. So watch your quantity and your portions in the day. Quinoa and other fortified grains. Quinoa is a great protein choice. It's got about 6 grams of protein per serving, which is like a half a cup cooked. So that's a great protein add-in in a meal. It just helps to kind of, every little bit that you combine these different plant-based proteins in a meal increases that protein profile to make sure that you're meeting your needs for the meal and for the day. Other grain options that are great are some of these fortified tortillas and breads. A lot of the whole grain options have 5, 6, 8 grams of protein per serving, which just helps kind of add everything up, keep you a little bit fuller and satisfied. You can also mix in things like our mushrooms. They really give that umami taste that you might be used to with the beef or pork, and mixing in these into your recipes can help to kind of give you the flavors that you're used to. So these are just some ideas to kind of utilize to make sure that you're comfortable with swapping out the plant-based proteins for your meats that you're used to. Keep in mind that protein deficiencies is not something that is common in the US. Most adults easily meet their protein needs in the day within eating, I'd say, a meal and a snack. So it's not hard to get your protein needs in. Most of us eat more than we need in a day. So this isn't something that's going to cause health scares or cause you to not be healthful if you're not, adding in all of these protein choices. You'll still probably meet your needs. If you're concerned, definitely meet with a dietitian and go through your meal plan. I know that a lot of people are offering virtual classes and virtual counseling sessions, so definitely take advantage of those. So that's what I've got for you today. Ingredient swaps, protein swaps. Check out the handout that goes along with this video. Hopefully this helps you out. Have a great day, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.